when I was 24 years old, my friend and I decided to run the Banff Marathon. At the time, it was right in the middle of COVID. I believe it would have been fall 2021, and didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. We initially wanted to just do a half marathon, but we're pretty confident we could take on the full one. We had no clue how much more challenging this course was. We just signed up for it. There wasn't a lot of races that were available at the time, partially because it was COVID. So some races were getting postponed or they were doing virtual races. And so I found Banff, saw that it was happening, and took a plane from Toronto to uh, Calgary. And then from Calgary, rented a car, made it out to Banff, stayed at an Airbnb. It was about 3 or 4 days that we were there, didn't properly train, or at least we did train, but we didn't really follow a structured plan. I think in our peak week, we were probably touching maybe 50 or 60 kilometers, and the longest run we had done at the time was maybe 22 kilometers. So pretty novice, pretty, you know, fresh coming into this, just kind of hoping for the best, and didn't properly taper. Now that I look back at it, we were hiking and walking around, and probably should have stayed off our feet a little bit more and been more fresh on race day. That being said, we showed up. I remember the day before, actually, when we were getting our bibs, we decided right there, hey, we should probably buy some gels to fuel us throughout the race. We had never trained even with gels. So, again, another rookie mistake. Everyone recommends like never try something new on race day. And I think we bought 4 or 5 gels each, just the standard GU energy gels. And we woke up the next day. It was drizzling a little bit. I think it rained the night before, and we were just happy that the sun was out. A little bit cold. I think it was probably, I don't even know, maybe 15 degrees. It was good, good fall running weather. And the race started. Again, another amateur mistake. We went out way too fast. I think I remember I was actually getting at around 5 minute pace per kilometer. And considering what my fitness was at, that was way too fast. So in my mind, thought I could bank time. Again, classic mistake. You know, since then I've gone on and done other races, and I've recognized the value of having steady splits or starting out easier, finishing strong, doing a negative split. And so started out the race, and so far so good, nothing too crazy. I think at around 7 or 8K into the race, we had just insane downpour, freezing cold, wet, shoes, socks, everything soaked. And I just remember thinking, you know what, let's just get through this. At least the rain stopped and the sun's coming out. We'll dry off, just temporary pain and a little bit of suffering, but we're going to get through it. I ended up having a really strong front half of the race. I think I actually set a personal PR for my half marathon. Again, just major red flag considering I still have a back half of the race and I have never at this point run longer than 22 kilometers. And so I remember distinctly at around kilometer 25 because it was a small race. I think there was maybe about 1,000 runners, maybe a little bit more than that, but definitely nowhere near kind of like a major city race. And so there's very few pit stops or aid stations compared to those larger races. There's less of a crowd, and there's definitely sections where it's very quiet. And I remember at around 25 or 26, I think I was completely on my own. I could not see a runner in front of me or behind me for at least, probably a kilometer, which is kind of sounds crazy. And or maybe I'm just, I don't know, thinking back at it, that's kind of how I envisioned it. Maybe they were a little bit closer, but nonetheless, I felt very alone. I was really entering the pain cave at this point, and my glycogen was just shot. I had no energy left. Everything was cramping. Um, and again, when we go back to it, like I don't know why we decided to pick this race. It made no sense. I think where the elevation was like 1,000 feet higher than what it is in Toronto. Um, so just like had rolling hills, not a flat course in any way, no real crowd to kind of hype you up when you're feeling down, minimal aid stations, and we weren't carrying a bunch of stuff on us. So everything was just going wrong at this point. And I remember hitting around 30K at this point, knowing, there's about 12 kilometers left. I can kind of just, slug it out, get through it. But I was in tremendous pain. Like everything was killing and it was brutal. I had to take out my music for that point. I just couldn't even understand the lyrics. My ears were like ringing. And I genuinely thought about stopping so many times and just got into kind of a groove of walk run. I think our goal initially was to try to get close to 4 hours. We would have been happy just being under 4.5 hours. And I just remember crossing that finish line. It was so emotional, and just I think I hit like 4 hours and 14 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. Had a mild case of hypothermia, had to go to the medical tent, and when it was all said and done, I was brutally sore for the next few days after. But that whole experience and just getting through that anguish, it genuinely changed my perspective on what our bodies are capable of. And I just figured to myself, like, wow, like if I actually train more effectively at this, I could, do so much better. And it just really taught me about personal growth. I got in way better shape than I'd ever have been in my life from a, cardio perspective. And it was just a huge accomplishment. So if if you're on the fence about considering, taking on any type of race, maybe it's a half marathon, maybe it's a full, I just encourage everyone to try it. Um, I think everyone's capable of doing it. And yes, it will be brutal. Yes, it will be painful. Give yourself as much time as you can to train. But the reality is it's going to be hard no matter what. Even if you train a lot for it, it's a hard thing to do. And it's important to do hard things. So if you're thinking about running a marathon, maybe my experience scared you a little bit, but in a good way. And yeah, I don't regret it at all. I think everyone should run at least one marathon in their life.